Hello and welcome to one of my dearest friends, Boria Majumdar, who's written a fascinating book yet again. Congratulations, Boria. It's the Maverick Commissioner, the saga of IPL and Lalit Modi, and it couldn't be more timely. We've all just seen the results of an amazing bid for telecast rights, and it's gone through the roof again. So clearly, a property, a legacy that he left behind that is unquestionable. He did create a legacy that has really revolutionized Indian cricket. But as you have said, there are so many layers to what happened, and the backstory is so fascinating. And you take us through it really wonderfully. You tell us exactly how he set it up. And it's very difficult to explain to people who perhaps were not really aware of how difficult it was to set it up at that time. 15 years ago, no one really thought Indian cricket could come up with a world franchise, a global franchise like this. And he had to bend a lot of rules and regulations. And of course, we know that he paid the price as well. But what you also do, Boria, very well in the book is that you show how closely Indian politics and Indian cricket have been intertwined, and how the election for board president is, as you yourself have said through the book, perhaps more competitive than the general election as well. And you talked about Commissioner Krishnamurti as well, with his head in his hands saying, "My God, this is such a difficult election," when you talked about Sharad Pawar. And you've had a ringside view to all these fantastic characters, Jagmohan Dalmia, whom we all call Jagguda, of course, Sharad Pawar, Arun Jaitley, Lalit Modi, Rajiv Shukla. And I want to congratulate you for having brought all this together in a book that really is like a contemporary history of Indian cricket. So really well done. And I want to ask you, since I want to start with the idea that it's going to be a motion picture soon. So I want to start asking you right away, since I love movies as well. Who's going to play Lalit Modi?
Firstly, it's a pleasure talking to you. I mean, one person who I actually, and I'm putting it on record, I wanted somebody to read and review is you. So there's no question. I want to put that on record because when I was told that it will be made into a motion picture, one of the people who I wanted to sort of look at this book was you. So pleasure that you are actually sort of doing it, and we are having this conversation. It's not my call. It is not my call as to who will play Lalit. It is the producer's call or maybe the director's call. But I also, obviously, as a fan or as the writer, I have my own fancies. I imagine Ayushmann Khurrana as a good Lalit Modi. Some people tell me Shah Rukh Khan will be perhaps brilliant because he's part of the IPL, owns a team, knows it from inside out, will perhaps be an incredible Lalit Modi. Farhan Akhtar can be a good Lalit Modi because again, you've got to understand the man, and he's got multiple layers and all these characters. Whoever plays Lalit Modi, there are these multiple shades in the man, and you can't judge him. Is he right, wrong, good, bad? Multiple shades of gray. My job was to narrate the story, and I think that's very cinematic. Lalit Modi landing from that helicopter, his court moving around, knowing that his time is numbered with the BCCI, and then leaving India, but still the absent present every time the auction happens. Lalit Modi. IPL bid 50,000 crores. Lalit Modi. So he's like this conscience keeper of Indian cricket, sitting in whichever part of the world, London maybe. So he's a fascinating man, and this is the story of the IPL. Like you said, we couldn't believe in 2008 that we could create a property like this. That in 15 years' time, Sanjeev Goenka pays 7,000 crores, and we're like, what is this? Is this an ego bid? And then we get 50,000 crores from media rights, which can well become 75,000 in the next cycle. And we are like, what's going on? This is the story of the Indian economy. This is the story of a resurgent India. This is the story of modern India, and perhaps the only global brand. The only global Indian brand in sport is the IPL. That is what this book is all about. The backstory, how it was created, what went wrong, how this brand is robust, how Lalit is the absent present. And it was tough, Kaveri, I can tell you that. Because when you're writing a book like this, multiple interviews, some off record, some on record, hundreds of hours of research, trolling through papers to get it right. it was difficult because obviously there are sensitive issues. We went through multiple legal checks, many legal checks. The publisher went through, I individually went through. But I think overall we've been able to piece together the story in a manner. If somebody, a discerning reader like you, likes it, then it makes my day.
Yeah, but that is it. It's you've done this without judgment, which is, I think, very important. A guy like Lalit Modi, as you yourself have written, evokes very strong emotions. You either hate him or you adore him. And actually, the ones who adore him are in a dwindling number now, unfortunately. But for you to be dispassionate and yet say, okay, these are the things that this man did wrong, and these are the things that he did right. I think that was very important, because even when it comes to cricket commentators, they were very divided about IPL, weren't they?
Absolutely. I mean, even I was. So when IPL started, and I was there at the Chinnaswamy on day one, and I was doing an ethnography as an academic, I was divided. I didn't think, I always thought nationalism sold in Indian cricket. In IPL, it was city versus city. Concept had never been tried out. So I thought, no, this will fail. It can't work. And then we saw what really transpired. It just took off. So even I was divided. I was actually a naysayer. Then to see this brand become what it is. And look, I'm very clear. When this project started with Vishnuvardhan Induri, who's the producer of the film 83 and Thalaivi, Vishnu approached me. Vishnu approached me saying he wants to do this. Can we write a book which is objective? And I've interviewed Lalit many times, for print and television. The day Vishnu approached me and I told him, look, if you have to get it right, if you have to sort of, get the multiple layers in, we've got to stop talking to Lalit, not make it an official biography, no whitewashing, just do it to the best of your ability. Give Lalit his due, because, and I say this very clearly, IPL was his baby. Nobody at that point in time could have done the IPL. So he created it, the man deserves his credit, but then what happened, you've got to put it there. If it was a whitewashed biography, then I don't think Lalit would have allowed or wanted what I have written. So I have written exactly the story as I know. And I was very clear about it, that you put in the extra yard, make it as objective as possible. That's what the real story is. As historians of sport, I think that is our job. And that's what we've been able to do. Your question was, were people divided? Absolutely, yes. In fact, I remember after that first night in Bengaluru on 18th April, and we were like, okay, today you've gotten Bollywood, today you've gotten all this exotic dancers, etc., and all this. What about tomorrow when you have a game at 4 p.m. in the afternoon? April and May, India at 40 degrees heat. Who will come and watch? Which idiot will come and watch? And we were like, what? 50,000 crowds, 70,000 crowds. And we were like, none of us had an idea that this can become like this. Today, 110,000 people in that final in Ahmedabad. Look at the brand, 50,000 crores from media barons, Uday and Star. So it's an incredible story. When Sanjeev paid 7,000 and you know him as much as I do, people said it's an ego bid. And now think when 50,000 crores from media rights for 5 years, right? Now think the next cycle will be 75,000 crores.
Absolutely.
So Sanjeev's team is in profit. He will make money from year 2, year 3. It's already $1 billion enterprise. And then you're like, there's something unique about this property. That's where Lalit deserves credit. Because what was he selling? He was selling an idea. Not a stadium, not an asset, no asset. He was selling an idea to India's best. That's where his credit is.
And Boria, we talk about the money, and of course, it's fantastic. It has changed the game. And let's also talk about the talent it has unearthed. And I think that is where we tend not to give it enough credit. I mean, the lives have been transformed. People from towns that we didn't even know of have come to the national stage. They've joined the national team. I mean, look at the democratization of the game as well. Let's talk a little about what that has done as well.
Fantastic question. Fantastic question. I mean, today it is actually a real representation of India. You have the Northeast represented. You have Kashmir represented. You have obviously every part of East, South, Northwest represented. It's incredible. With women's IPL starting next year, Think what that can do to the women's game. It's a viable profession, and not simply players. Look at the ecosystem: media, broadcast, TV, radio, print, the technicians, the sponsors, fantasy sport. Look at the ecosystem and you will know how this has become an industry which stands on its own. This 50,000 is just the tip of the iceberg. Add the team valuations, add the all of the sponsors in it, and then you will know it is actually a 150,000 crore enterprise. Fantastic it is.
And the team owners as well. We've always had this mix of glamour and the game, and the after parties, and as you said, the exotic dancers and the cheerleaders. And in the early days there was so much of that has actually come down, I think, and the game has sort of taken over the glamour.
100%.
I would tend
100%.
to say. Let's talk about that. Cricket has triumphed.
Absolutely. Cricket has taken center stage. That is at the core. It is the world's best league with the world's best players. No doubt about it. Yes, it's got glamour and glitz and Bollywood and all of that, but the sport is at its core. You will have a story like a Yash Dayal from UP who told me that when his bid was going up from 20 lakhs to 3 crores, he said, "Sir, I was crying because I was thinking what this will do to my family, to my parents. They will never have to think of money again." And you're like, what a story. Think of somebody like, any girl. When I think next year, when a women's IPL happens, the bid goes up to 1 crore. There was no central contracts 5 years back. Think of what that will do to the Indian women's team. It is one of the best or most viable and lucrative professions in the country as we speak. For me, as an Indian, when I go west, when I teach in any part of the world, when I tom this brand, look at what we have been able to achieve in India. It's fabulous. Cricket is at its core. And I call it atypical globalization, where the West looks towards the East because everything's here. It makes us the nerve center of global cricket. Clearly, we are dominant in the ICC. It has given us leverage there. So in every sense, it is a brand made in India that we should be proud of. Kaveri, the point is, it is bigger than the World Cup. You know why? Because India can lose to Pakistan in a World Cup game or to anybody and the World Cup's done. For the Indian market, it's done. In the IPL, every night India wins. Whether you are Delhi, whether I'm Kolkata, whether I'm Mumbai, India wins. And MS Dhoni will win, I will celebrate. A Rohit will win, a Virat will win, a Boria will win, a Kaveri will win, and we will celebrate. India will win. That is why this brand is recession-free and it is robust.
And, since we are talking a little about the movies, Boria, this is a slightly diversionary question. We've been talking about Bollywood crossing over for the longest time, and what has actually escaped us is that the world can actually come to Bollywood rather than Bollywood going to the world. We've been talking about crossover. What IPL did was actually created a Bollywood which the world came to, Can this idea not be replicated elsewhere in our soft power universe?
It can be, absolutely can be. I mean, if it can be done in sport, why can't it? I mean, we've already done it to a degree in technology. We've done it to a degree in technology. We've done it to a degree in vaccines. Look at what happened post-COVID. Look at Serum Institute of India. I mean, my friends in Oxford tell me from day one they inked this deal because they knew that once they had that vaccine, they needed the technical capabilities of Serum Institute to be able to scale up. So we already have this technology. So it has sort of multiplied across sectors. That is the story of India. And now with what's happening in Russia, with what's happening in China, what's happening in Brazil, where is a stable economy? Where can you say that, okay, here is one economy where we can be assured of growth? India. So has to be. So whatever anybody says, it gives us enormous positivity about this country in the next decade going forward.
Right. One of the few good news stories I think that we have in the country. Let's talk about Lalit Modi now, and the fascinating character that he is. You've charted his journey from being a university student who was expelled, jailed also, or just escaped it for, procuring cocaine, to, becoming this, the husband of someone much older, much more glamorous, and someone he deeply loved as well. And I think when he lost her, it was really a big loss. And a character who loved Flash, who loved, the larger than life image that he had. You talked of him landing in the helicopter, in Wankhede Stadium, booking an entire floor of a 5-star hotel, having a suite at Rambagh Palace in Jaipur for the longest time. I mean, here's a character who is a character.
Absolutely. I mean, he's a showman. He's actually a showman in the real sense. And I think you needed somebody, and that's why Maverick. I mean, you needed a Maverick genius to be able to set up a league like this, because you were actually talking about billions of dollars for what? An idea that he had to sell to India's biggest industrialists, get them on board, get them to believe in something that has never been done before. India has never experimented with this format. Then he was obviously drawing upon NFL and other global leagues. And then to get it right with this peculiar Indian mix of city loyalties, Tendulkar to Bombay, Ganguly to Calcutta, that kind of loyalty. So a mix of an Indian modernity, if I can call it that. I mean, he's an incredibly interesting character. And see, that's what I said. Don't judge him. Don't judge him by I've not judged him. For me, when I think about it, was he ad hoc? Yes, he was ad hoc. Could he have been any different? I don't know. Would it have worked had he been any different? I don't know. Maybe had he gone through the structures of the board, the IPL wouldn't have happened. Today, look at what the BCCI is getting out of the IPL. Maybe at that point in time in 2008, for Lalit to be able to create this, rules had to be broken. So it is very, very difficult to judge Lalit. At the same time, obviously he was becoming bigger than the institution, and that costed him. He paid the price. Putting out that Kochi franchise shareholding document on Twitter early in the morning obviously explains to you that he was a maverick. So all these things make up the man. And that is why I think he makes great character in cinema. So I think he's tailor-made for that. But you cannot make a whitewash thing, because it's not only good. It has to be the good and the bad. It has to be the shades of gray. That is what will make, because that's the story of the IPL. If you just say, oh, X to Y is a linear progression, that's not the story. It was never the story. Politicians were involved. Powers were involved. The whole Shashi Tharoor saga. 2010, what happened with Kochi and Sahara? Why wasn't he signing that document? When he left India, did he actually call somebody in the BCCI? I was told he did. That conversation lasted. Why did he cancel bids? Did he park that Sonia? I mean, obviously the High Court case has now gone in his favor. Can he ever make a comeback? It's an open-ended dream. So there are many shades to Lalit Modi.
He's the Khalnayak, not the Nayak, but he's definitely some sort of a Nayak. But Boria, you talked about Kochi, and really, my question repeatedly while reading your book was, what went wrong with Kochi? I mean, he had allowed so many franchises, he'd allowed them to bend the rules, to fudge, and he knew it. I mean, he knew that, who was the real owner of Kings 11. He knew who was partly the real owner of Rajasthan Royals, and they were all somewhat related to him as well, as you've shown. What was wrong with Kochi that bothered him so much?
It is a fantastic story. I mean, the deal is, obviously, with the Kochi franchise, I mean, the backstory, as I've alluded to, what was going on with the bid? Did he expect someone to get it?
Exactly.
Did he actually want someone to get it? The fact that the way I was described the whole thing, that when he opened the bids, he was uncomfortable when Sahara and Kochi got it. He was not there for an hour. When he came back to address the press conference, was he not happy? He had actually raised $700 million for the BCCI in a matter of one day in 2010, which shows his ability. Still, he was not happy. Was it because he wanted a particular group or a particular person to get it, and that didn't happen? So he wanted to get Kochi out, wasn't signing the document, was trying to figure out if there was any way. So there are these, because otherwise, why is it that other franchise shareholding patterns were never disclosed? Why only Kochi? Right? Why did you single out Kochi? And then that entire email exchange you've seen. I mean, I had access to all the BCCI emails. 5:32, the mail by Lalit. 5:47, the board responds. 5:52, he responds again. Now, I had access to all that confidential information also. And it tells you what was going on. Clearly, till 3 a.m. in the morning of that, whatever, I mean, some 11th April, he wasn't willing to sign the franchise document. And then, under duress, when the president, Shashank Manohar, insisted that he sign that document, else the president would overrule him and get Mr. Srinivasan, who was then secretary, to sign it. He was forced to sign. And then within a couple of hours, all hell broke loose when he put it out on Twitter. Clearly, there was something going on. Something going on that meant he did not want the franchise. And by the way, the question is, it was his team that scrutinized the technical bit. Then why is the problem? Then why are you not signing it? So these are open-ended questions. Obviously, Lalit has his side of the story. The board and people in the know, in power at that point in time, who I've all spoken to, have their side of the story. I've represented both. In that legal case, Lalit and BCCI, when they were going through that whole disciplinary hearing, he represented his side. The board put out his side. Board put out their side, and that's what makes this extremely interesting. Now that money deal, the 420 million, the Mumbai High Court has judged in his favor. He now claims there is one FIR against him in Chennai, and if that goes, he'll come back to India. Will he? Don't know. Will he ever want to sort of, try another takeover of the BCCI? Can he? Will he have the political clout to be able to do that? Because if you see, Kaveri, yes, there is 50,000 crores today from media rights. But tell me, what is the innovation that you have seen in the IPL? I haven't. I mean, where am I going with this? I've got serious money. The board has a lot of money, and they're planning the women's IPL, which is fantastic. But when I go to Eden Gardens, I still have poor toilets, overflowing toilets, unhygienic, etc., etc. Why is it that there is one stadium in Ahmedabad which is fabulous, and the rest of the country, any stadium you take, is not even half as good as an MCG? Why? We have much more money. So where is the innovation? Why is the Indian fan, if you and I are fans now, why is the Indian fan not empowered more with this level of money? Secondly, today after Tokyo, you and I both know what happened with Olympic sport and Paralympic sport, right? We've seen Prime Minister Modi auction Neeraj Chopra's javelin. We've seen what happened with our Paralympic stars. Suppose a Lalit Modi was given responsibility for India's Olympic sport. Could he have transformed them? Could he have made them a billion-dollar industry as well? Obviously, Tokyo showed us what potential Neeraj Chopra has, right? So I keep thinking of this, that had Lalit been in charge of Indian Olympic sport, could he have brought this amount of money? Clearly, other countries do. It's not as if they don't. So in that sense, I ask these questions while I know that there are no yes or no answers to any of them.
I think that's a fascinating idea. The idea that Lalit Modi could actually be in charge of our Olympic dream. What is to stop him from transforming that? You think he has this staying power, the skill, the technical skill, the managerial skill to pull off something like that even now?
See, he has the ideas. There is no question. I mean, someone who could have thought of the IPL, now with a resurgent India, I mean, all I'm saying is definitely there is something in the man. Could he have continued? I think he's a great builder. Maybe he can't sustain, or that's what we have seen with him, that he creates fabulous institutions, unfortunately isn't able to sustain. But clearly, in terms of marketing or creating a property or building a brand, you got to give him credit. So that's why I said Olympic sport or Paralympic sport. If somebody told me that, I will get you someone who will be able to make India's Olympic sport 100,000 crore industry, I would have put my hand up and said, boss, yes, I want to be a global player. I want to win 20 gold medals. If my country can win 20 gold medals in 2032 with the amount of infrastructure and money that my country has, I don't care whether it is Lalit Modi or anybody. Yes, let's do it. If Mrs. Ambani can give us the 2036 Olympics, if she can dream of bringing that spectacle to India, I mean, I think that is fabulous. If she can get the IOC session to India next year, then the Youth Olympics and then the Olympics, I think Indian Olympic sport can be transformed. And I'm always one who believes that India can be a multi-sporting country. So anybody who can contribute in any shape or form, I would put my hand up and say, let's do it.
Right. So, Boria, but let's also talk about the elephant in the room, which is the politics of Indian sport. And the politics of Indian cricket is truly at another level because it's the richest game we have. That has not changed, has it?
I don't think it will ever change, because if you are controlling a 150,000 crore enterprise, how will it change? It won't change. And not simply Indian cricket. Take a look at every sport. Take a look at Indian Olympic Association today. The presidential election hasn't happened. It is in court. The court ruled against Dr. Batra, as a result of which, he had to. So the verdict came some days back. So who will be the next president? We don't know. Several names, but the fact of the matter is the election and everything else was stalled because of politics. Take a look at any sport you take. Look at football. There is a committee of administrators appointed by the Supreme Court running Indian football. There was a committee for cricket. Look at the construction of Indian cricket, and all of us know, obviously there will be political interference as well as interest. Why? Because, and I keep giving this example, when Mr. Pawar was president, he was on television maybe 5 times in 1 month as agriculture minister, and he was 20 times on TV as board of control for cricket in India.
Yeah.
Finished.
You can't buy that kind of publicity.
You can't. Today, if you take a look at the BCCI, anybody, not BCCI, take any sport. Take a look at Indian Olympic sport. When a Neeraj Chopra wins gold, we know everybody. We know all the sports administrators. We know and that's what the power of sport is. That it will give you the limelight on national TV, in print, in whatever you want to call it. And yes, that's the clout. So it's soft power, it's clout at a different level. I don't think anywhere, any country, cricket or other sports in India will ever lose this level of brand value.
Right. So really, at the end of the day, when you look back on this book and you think of the movie that's to come, I wonder, the call that will come to you from Lalit Modi when he reads the book and when he watches the movie. And I wonder what it is that he will tell you.
I don't know what he'll tell me, but in my heart of hearts, I know that he also knows or will know whenever he reads it that this is the real story.
Right.
That whatever I've written, I've done justice to Lalit. I've done justice to his contribution to the game. At the same time, I have been as objective to try and point out what I consider flaws and faults, because that's what human beings are, right? There are multiple shades. No one's 100% right or 100% wrong. Right. If you write a history of Indian cricket, can you ignore Lalit Modi? The answer is a blunt no.
No way.
If you ever write, and frankly, you started out our conversation saying it changed Indian cricket. No, it changed world cricket.
Exactly.
It changed world cricket forever. So when you write the history of the global game, can you ignore the IPL? Absolutely not. If it takes 75 days of your calendar, can you? So it's 1/4 of the year.
Yeah.
How do you change that?
Yeah.
So that is Lalit. At the same time, clearly, in 3 years' time, he had to leave his own baby and leave. So there were issues. From day one, there were issues. And unfortunately, in 2009, 2010, it sort of, all of this thing came together, and he had to leave the property that he created. So I think maybe he will also think that he could have done things differently. Had he done things differently, maybe he could have stayed on. But as I said, My job was to narrate the story, give the man his due, point out what went wrong without judging the man. I am not writing a biography of Lalit Modi and I'm not interested in it. I am interested in documenting facts exactly the way I know it, having researched and spoken to everybody who was in the know. So, this is my account of what really transpired and made the IPL what it is.
Right. Fascinating conversation, Boria. Thank you so much for the book and thank you so much for this conversation. I think it's something that every cricket lover should read, and it'll take them back through the years when nobody ever thought it was possible and relive some of the early days of glitz and glamour as well, but also tell us how it's transformed the game forever. Thank you
Thank you
so
very
much.
much. It's a pleasure talking to you. And as I said, if you liked it, makes my day, because then I mean, the cinema would be liked by some people.
No,
If
no,
Kaveri Bamzai gives me a blue tick, job done.
I loved it and I look forward to the movie with Ayushmann Khurrana, Shah Rukh Khan, whoever. Bring it on.
Correct.
Thank you.
Correct. Thank you very much, Kaveri,
Thank
for your time. Appreciate you sort of doing this.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.